Hi, welcome to Form 4 Science. Let's start with Chapter 2. The first thing that we are going to talk about in this chapter is a word known as body coordination. Well, what is body coordination? You can think of body coordination as the control and balance of our body. Or you can also think about it as response of our body. Let's say the room is getting a bit colder. So what will our body do to respond to it? Let's say we drink too much water. What will our body do to respond to it? Or let's say I am studying. How would my body respond to memory and so on? Yep. So this is going to be an interesting chapter. So the first lesson, we are going to touch on body coordination. So body coordination basically means a process which ensures the harmonious actions of various organs and also systems in the body to produce what we call a coordinated response. In order to do this, we need the help of system. And the two systems that are involved will be nervous system and endocrine system. So let me just work out a flowchart on that. So in this lesson, we are talking about body coordination. It basically means how our body control, balance, and respond to different type of stimulus, right? And in order to do this, we involve two systems, nervous system as well as endocrine system. Nervous system itself is divided further into two branches, and this will be known as CNS, central nervous system, and PNS, peripheral nervous system. Yep, so again, CNS means central nervous system. And PNS means peripheral nervous system. And endocrine system, we basically talk about chemicals that are inside our body that can help us to control, balance, and respond. And these chemicals are given a name. We call it hormones. In this lesson, we are only going to focus on nervous system. For endocrine system, we're going to separate these and talk about it in another lesson. So let's just move back to nervous system. What is nervous system? Nervous system, basically, it deals with rapid and short-lasting responses which involve transmission of something that we call impulses. So it relates to nerve, it relates to messages known as impulses. And for all of that to work together, as I told you earlier, it's separated into two parts, right? The CNS as well as the PNS, or what we call the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. And what is inside the CNS? Well, in the CNS, we have the brain. Yeah, let's just write it down here. Brain. And another part of it is the spinal cord. Spinal cord. And under the brain, it has three more. Under the brain, it has three more departments. One is known as cerebrum. Another one is known as cerebellum. And another part, we call it the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata. Okay? And in order for us to make sense of all of this, perhaps we can use a storyline to guide us. Okay? So you imagine that our body is a huge company. Yep. And to run this huge company, the manager, the CEO, must be very efficient. Then only the company can be in good health, right? So you imagine every one of us has a company in our body known as the Sharikat nervous system, sendirian, berhad. Okay, so you imagine every one of us have one of these company in our body. Well, as I told you, this is a huge company. So a huge company, you will have the main branch, right? Or what we call the headquarters, the central, yeah, of it. And for a huge company, besides the main branch, the headquarters, the HQ, we also have side branches. Okay, so for human, the main branch comprises of the CEO, or what we call the boss. Yep, so our boss is the brain. And because the boss will be very busy, yep, we can actually think of the boss as a very busy man or a woman, if you like, because the company is huge, right? So the boss will need to coordinate everything, the boss will need to control everything. So it will be assisted by the spinal cord. So the spinal cord will be its assistant. Yep. And why is the boss so busy? Well, the boss have many departments to control. One of them is cerebrum, the other one is called cerebellum, and another huge part is known as medulla oblongata. And all these departments will actually control different things. For example, the cerebrum control this thing known as voluntary action. Voluntary action basically means action that we can think about it and then only decide. For example, as you're walking in the park, you see a beautiful flower. What are you gonna do to the flower? You have a choice, right? You either pluck the flower, leave the flower alone, or step on the flower, right? So that is choices. So whenever there is choices, we call it voluntary action. Suka rela. Nobody forces you to pluck the flower if you don't want to, right? So that is controlled by cerebrum. Let me draw a flower here to remind us every time we see cerebrum, we think of the flower, which means voluntary action. Now the cerebellum, we are gonna put a staircase picture here. Yep, and what does the staircase represent? Well, it represents body balance. Body balance. Let's say we are walking up and down the stairs, or walking, or just dancing. Why didn't we fall down? It's because the cerebellum is helping us to keep our body in balance. How about the medulla oblongata? Well, the medulla oblongata is involved in this thing called involuntary action. Involuntary action, probably something that you cannot control. So I would like to call it paksa rela. You like it, you don't like it, you have to do it. For example, the pumping of your heart. Can you tell your heart to stop pumping for a day because it's your birthday? Cannot, right? We are going to be dead if we do so, okay? So that is handled by the medulla oblongata. Yeah, so the boss, which is our brain, is very busy because it has to handle 3 different departments, right? The cerebrum, which controls voluntary action, the cerebellum, which controls body balance, and the medulla oblongata, which controls involuntary action. And because the boss is so busy, it will be assisted by the spinal cord. The spinal cord will send messages to and fro the brain, and it also does this thing known as reflex action. Now, reflex action is an action where you don't need to think about it. A good example will be this. As you're walking down the road, you step on a nail. Tell me, what are you gonna do? You jump away. Straight, right? Straight away you jump. That is to save yourself. That is to help you from further injuring yourself. So we do this without thinking. We automatically jump away from the nail. Or another good example is your hand touches a hot surface, what are you gonna do to it? Are you still gonna hold the hot surface, let's say an iron or a kettle? Are you still gonna hold on to it? No, right? You're gonna throw the kettle away, or throw the iron away, or lift your arm as far away as possible from the hot surface, and that happens very quick, and that is assisted by the what? Spinal cord. Okay, so spinal cord, it helps the brain, but at the same time it also helps to save us from further injury by performing this thing known as the reflex action. Okay, and what does the branch do? What does the PNS do? Okay, well, the PNS is those that branches out from the central nervous system. So if nerve branches out from the brain, we call it cranial nerve. Yep. If the nerve branches from our brain, let's say to our eyes, to our ears, to our nose, we call it cranial nerve, because cranial also refers to the skull, to the cranium. Yeah, so it's easier for us to remember that way. And how about when it branches out from the spinal cord? It branches out from the spinal cord to our hands, to our legs. So those are known as the spinal nerve. Okay, so far so good. Well, try to take a look at this picture again. Tell me what is missing. Well, you have a company known as the Syarikat Nervous System Syndrome Berhad. It's such a huge company. That's why you have the main branch as well as the side branch. And who do we see in the main branch? We see the boss, which is the brain, and the assistant spinal cord. And also we have branches. And what else could be missing? Well, it's a company, and company need what? Workers, right? Workers. So something is missing. The workers are missing. Okay, let me draw another branch out. Probably I'll just branch it out from here. Okay, so the workers are missing, and the workers are known as neuron. Yeah, neuron. And there are 3 types of neuron basically. What can you recall? We have this thing called the sensory neuron. We also have this thing known as the motor neuron. And one more. Try to guess the one more. We have this thing known as the relay neuron. Okay, so we have 3 types of neuron. And neuron, basically, what do they do again? Well, they are the workers, and all these neurons will have different roles that I'm gonna explain in the next lesson.